Welcome. My name is Jen Bankard. I'm the Senior Director of Content Solutions and Conferences for the BTN Group. My pronouns are she and her. And I have just a few housekeeping items to review before we dive into what I'm sure is going to be a fantastic discussion because we have a fantastic panel. So thank you for joining. Anyone who has joined us virtually, I want to say hello to you as well. So hopefully we do have some folks in our virtual audience in addition to our virtual panelist. So a bit of housekeeping. If I can ask you, if you have downloaded the show app, if I can ask you to go into the app, go into this session in the agenda, and there should be a little calendar icon that if you tap it, it turns red. The reason I'm asking you to do that is that will allow you to get a notification after the session asking you to rate the session, because we, of course, would very much love your feedback. It's a very short, just 5-point scale with an option to add comments. So after you've tapped that little calendar icon, and make sure it's red and not black, if you want to tap on that red live discussion button that you should see. And that will, hi, David Meyer. David Meyer is chatting in from New York. David is my colleague, so thanks for joining, David. So on that live discussion button, you will see that we have a chat. So feel free, those of you who are in the room with us or those of you who are joining us virtually, please feel free to engage in the chat, say hi, let us know where you're joining us from. You also have an option to ask questions of our fantastic panelists. And we are going to do just one poll question here in a moment. Don't open the poll yet. But why don't we actually start by doing a round of introductions? So I'm going to ask each of these lovely ladies to share their name, title, company, the usual stuff. And Shannon, an additional item for you is to share perhaps where you're joining us from if you're comfortable. And of course, if you wouldn't mind sharing your pronouns. So Shannon, we'll go in order. So you're next to me on the screen. So I'll start with you. Then we'll go to Carol, Linda, and Anne.
Fabulous. Hello, everyone. I have a lovely view of the panel, so I'm not sure what the room looks like, but
they're beautiful.
Everyone.
It's a beautiful audience.
Beautiful audience. A pleasure to be here virtually. My name is Shannon Waite-Sessoms. I am the Travel, Meetings and Events Sustainability, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Leader for Ernst & Young. And my pronouns are she, her, and I am coming to you from Edgewater, New Jersey, which is just over the river from New York City.
Fantastic. Thanks, Shannon. Carol, over to you.
Hi, I'm Carol Fergus. My pronouns are her, she, her, hers. I'm the Global Travel Manager for Fidelity. Fidelity is an investment bank and also pension planning, and I manage everything that's travel related. So travel, of course, meeting and events, ground transportation, you name it, it's thrown in my bucket and I'll deal with it. And I say that my job is to get our travellers from A to B as seamlessly, safe and easily as possible.
Fantastic. Thanks, Carol. Linda.
Hello. Hi. My name is Linda Biko. I'm CEO and founder of About Partners, which is a co-sourcing representation company for hotels and also service departments. My pronouns are she and her.
Thanks, Linda. And Anne.
Hi, I'm Anne Barlow. I work at UBS. I'm the head of EMEA travel operations. I've been there 20 years, so clearly joined straight from school, and my pronouns are she and her.
Fantastic. Thanks, Anne. All right, so if you're still in the app, if I could ask you to go to the poll, and if I could ask my colleague in the back to go ahead and open the poll, we would like to know, for the purposes of our discussion, what are the aspects of DEI that are of highest priority within your particular travel program? Are you primarily focused on ensuring the safety and well-being of the diverse travelers within your organization? Are you focused just on DEI in the travel management community as a whole? Or are you focused on DEI in the travel supply chain? So it looks like we've got a couple votes coming in, so I'm going to give that just a few seconds so I can share the results with the panel and with all of you here. we're all it's our first time using the app at this event, so we're still adjusting, but we're all going with the flow. In the meantime, great saying hello to everyone in the chat. We've got some folks, Dallas, Chicago, some folks saying that they're missing being at Olympia. So, all right. So with 15 votes on our poll, it looks like the majority of you are focused, and panelists, you may find this useful, ensuring the safety and well-being of diverse travelers, followed by, that was 66%, 20% DEI in the travel management community, and 13% DEI in the travel supply chain. All right, thank you so much for participating in the poll. And so now let's go ahead and dive into our discussion. So I want to provide just a little bit of context, and then we'll get into our questions. So BTN at the end of 2020, and it's actually hard to believe it's almost the end of 2021, in the State of the Industry report, we had a fair percentage of travel buyers who were surveyed say that race, equity, and inclusion issues would really shape the way that they figure or configure their travel programs as the industry emerges from the pandemic-induced shutdown. And so I think we all know that this is an issue that sort of has risen to the surface over the past year and a half. Unfortunately, I think spurned on by some pretty tragic, incidences. But Carol and Linda, I want to start with you because you've actually been very invested in this topic for a very long time. And it is a very important topic. So even before the pandemic, and obviously you're very involved in moving this forward within the travel community. You're involved in committees with GBTA, you're involved in committees with TAMS. So what is your personal and professional motivation for this? What would you like to achieve? And I guess sort of just what perhaps started you on your journey. So Carol, could I start with you, and then Linda, have you follow up? Or you can go in the opposite order.
Linda
It's up
can
to you. I'll let you decide.
No, we had this whole big debate, and Carol was like, "You go first," but yeah. Who's going to go first? Okay.
All right, Linda can go first.
Okay. I think for me, I've always been aware of diversity and the challenges because my late father, he was here in the UK studying in Edinburgh and stuff. So we've always had conversations about what it was like for him to study. But I think that when I had my son, that's when diversity for me really opened, because when you watch kids in the playground, they play so seamlessly. They don't have any, they don't see race, they don't see culture, they don't see anything. They just play. And I think their universal language is, can you play? Can you run? And then they're pretty much good to go. So it really started to get me thinking that, we are born with open minds, but as we slowly grow, we form our own little biases. And for me, I think my passion with diversity really stems from the fact that I believe that everybody should be judged on their merit, not because of their skin color or their sexuality or anything. But more important, when I started my company, which was in 2019 in November, so everybody knows what happened, in 2020. But I think when I started it, one of the key things was for me to make sure that I had a diverse team as possible. So I really made sure that, everybody that I brought in had different minds and, different experiences, because I believed that that was the only way that I could grow. And there's been a couple of studies done. I think Catherine Phillips did one where she had a group of people that were homogeneous and then also diversity, and she found out that the output was so much better. Because if you think about it, if you have people of diverse cultures in one room and diverse experiences, think of the products and the services that you'll be able to produce. And I constantly talk about our black people, our hair and our skin and how much we spend on it, but it's easy for companies to really capitalize on this. But for me, I think that having time to sit down and reflect like everybody else, because you kind of think, okay, I've got not that much to do, really made me think of what do I want to contribute. And then Susan Lichtenstein, she sent me a message through LinkedIn to say, oh, Linda, would you like to co-chair diversity with Carol? And I was like, what does that mean? But then, I really thought to myself, this is a time for me to make my voice be heard. And if anything, I mean, Carol and I always say this, but if 1 or 2 people get the message, because it's a movement, then that's a job well done. And in regards to support, I've been very fortunate in my career because, I've always had people that have either mentored me or pushed me forward. So for me, I think that this is the least I can do to give back to the industry. So, that's my passion, really.
Thanks so much, Linda. Carol, what would you like to add to that?
I concur with everything that Linda said. Boom. I always have a saying, and it's a saying that comes out of the Bible: build it and they will come. And for me, it's about our people. It doesn't matter where you come from, what you do. I'm a people person. I love people. And everyone that meets me, they know that I'm very sort of open. I'm the type of person, come and talk to me. I come with love. That's my motivation. And, for me, the reason why this has become so prevalent is because, I look back on my journey in the travel industry, and some people will say that I've been very privileged. I'm sitting in a really good role, working for an extremely good company, but I've had my challenges and my issues along the way. And what George Floyd did for me, to be perfectly honest, was to make me raise my head. So, although those things were there all the time, I lifted up my head and I suddenly looked around and I thought, how many of me do I see? This whole thing is about get up and stand up, and I think we should add and be counted. And this is what I want to be. I want to be known as the person that gets up, I stand up, and I want to be counted. And what Tams and Linda's probably one of the best friends that I could ever meet. We do so much together, and we're, hooked, together in terms of our journey and what we do. And we reason and we talk about lots of things. And what Tams has done is given us the platform to be able to let people hear our voices and share, our journey. A lot of people that speak to me now say, I'm sick of, people bearing their souls. And to be quite honest, we feel exactly the same. It's not about bearing souls anymore. It's about peeling back those layers and asking the question, are we truly diverse? And I always tell a story about my journey into the building. And when you walk through those swing doors, you will see your minority groups, reception, security guard, they welcome you, they're very welcoming, very diverse. You go through the gates and you go into the lift. And the first floor, you still see lots of colour, lots of minority groups. You go to the second floor, absolutely the same. As you journey to the executive floor, guess what? The colours start fading. We need to ask ourselves, why is that? And, I feel that my place is to help the leadership team hold the people at grassroots hands and show them how to walk up into that ladder and get to the executive floor. And that's why I'm here. It's about taking your hand. I had the privilege Monday and Tuesday of spending time. What we call is, I'm part of the diversity group for Fidelity, and we decided to do something that we call grassroots. And I worked in the post room for the day, in my post room kit, taking around the mail, doing exactly what they did. And when I arrived, I could tell their faces was, oh my God, there's one of the directors, she's going to be here watching what we do. And I went, no, I'm your apprentice for the day. And I was their apprentice for the day. And I also did fine dining the day too. And I was there in my uniform, with my waistcoat, my red tie, my white shirt, my blacks. And they actually played a trick on me and made me serve the owner of the company and the CEO fine dining. And when I did my training, I went into the room and they said, Anne sits there, Abby sits there, you will be managing Anne and I'll be managing Abby. And this is how you need to take the plating, this is how you need to take the food away. And I was all ready. And then I walked into the room and they were in completely different seats. And I was like, I didn't learn that. I really have no clue what to do here. But the point I'm making is the most important part of that journey for me wasn't the learning their job, it was having lunch with them for an hour and listening to the true people. They'd got to know me and hearing how they felt. And the two things that came out of that session was, the post room said that many senior managers come into the mailroom and they don't even acknowledge them. So they don't feel that they're important enough. That was one. And then the second thing was that the fine dining team said, we feel it's them and us. That has to change. But if I hadn't spent time with them, I wouldn't know that. And that's why we talk about grassroots. I always say, top layer, work your way down, and then hold my hand and show me how I can work my way up. Middle layer, move aside. And the reason why I say move aside is because you find with the middle layer, they're trying to get to the top and they're working for themselves, not intentionally, but it's about their own unconscious bias. It's about their journey. It's about me wanting to make it to the top. And they forget about the people that they should be supporting. To change that, the top layer needs to come all the way down, work them through the journey, and that middle layer will work with them. So that's why I'm here. It's about a voice, it's about a platform, it's about changing perception, and it's about making everyone feel we are welcome, we are included, we can speak out, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you so much for that, Carol. Shannon, I'd like to move over to you. So to the best of our knowledge, this has been very thoroughly researched, you have the distinction of being the first travel management professional anywhere in the world, unless someone can contradict us, to have the word diversity included in their job title. So can you tell us the story behind that? How and why did that happen, and what does your role consist of?
Sure, happy to. I think how that happened is a really great question. I'm not sure if Karen Hutchings in the room, but I know she's there at the conference. But she's our head of global travel meetings and events. And those of you that know and love her, as we all do, know that she is never afraid to be the first person in the industry to drive change. So it also happened because EY really has a strong focus on DEI and building a better working world. So it was really natural for Karen to want someone on her leadership to look at everything that we do with that DEI lens. And I'm extremely humbled to be in this role. It's a personal passion of mine. I am an ally. I am a mother of children of color. And to be able to take what I do in my personal life and be able to drive that and impact in an industry that I love, that has opportunity for growth, and for me to be able to be an ally and bring that voice forward is pretty special. So as far as what the role involves, right now, we're still in the early stages of how we can make a big impact on this industry. I think that we've done the very best thing, which is to start to have one person looking at the strategy, to have one person to be able to gather all that information and then disseminate it in the right targeted areas. So I'm looking at policies and guidance within the firm, sharing best practices, developing communications that go out with that lens of DEI, and then really looking at within our company, our D&I folks in our company, our ESG folks in our company, they don't understand the nature of our business. They don't understand the nature of the travel business. They have brilliant ideas. They have an excellent wealth of information. So how do we work with them, take that information, make it fit into our industry, and then drive that change within our program? And then also being able to learn, from others such as Carol and Linda and Ann sitting here on the panel and having these conversations, being able to take that back and drive it across the whole industry, not just in EY.
Thanks for that, Shannon. So it sounds like there's a lot of education that's going on, which is really fantastic. Ann, yeah. I'd like to move over to you. So I think this is pretty cool. UBS has, if I have this right, 43 different employee networks who regularly host events, whether it's focused on gender, culture, ethnicity. LGBTQ issues, pride, disability, veterans, parenting. We could probably go on for another 32, I guess.
I think you're ticking a good few boxes there.
So how do you, in the travel program, use the information from those employee networks to inform the work that you do?
Well, as well as the 43 employee networks, UBS have also started getting people from all across the globe, from everywhere, to become Dni Ambassadors. And I was a bit nervous when my boss, when your boss asks you to do something and it's not quite an ask, and she said, I think you'd be really great at doing this. And I sat there with quite a bit of fear and thought, I really don't know that I'm qualified to be a diversity and equity and inclusion ambassador. And it worried me. And then I thought, what if I say the wrong thing on one of the phone calls? And what if I do the wrong thing? And what if I offend anybody? And I thought, yes, I could say the wrong thing, I could do the wrong thing, but I'm getting an opportunity here. I've got a massive amount of training and I'm absolutely loving it. It's challenging the way that I'm thinking. I've got 43 network groups. I mean, that's really lucky, right? But however many employees we've got within our own companies or our friendship circles or people that we have chance encounters with, that's an opportunity, to talk to people, to get different outlooks. I talk to Carol, I talk to colleagues and just, and I broach the subject. I think sometimes people get very worried about how do I start a conversation? And, and if so, maybe I just won't start that conversation because if I get it wrong, I could end up in trouble. And I think with the networks at UBS, I've got hundreds and hundreds of experts to go and talk to. So, I will go and say, well, we want to be more representative in our travel program, going to certain countries, different sexualities, making it safe for everybody, the females, anyone with disabilities. And I don't know where to start. And I get some great advice because, we've got those networks, we've got people that can educate me, and then I can go back and share that education. Some of Carol and Linda's points earlier, it gives me an opportunity to do that. So I think one of the things is not to be fearful and start those conversations. And I think Carol, which when I heard her speak the other week, talked about approaching things with love, and equally is that right? Oh, there we go. Oh no. Oh, mind you, I never have a problem being heard. So I think I've lost my mic, but I'll just enunciate. So, but I think, Carol talked about approaching things with love. And I just, and I'll add to that and say, approach things, go out there and say, I really want to do something. I'm not quite sure of the right terminology to use. And I'm not quite sure what to say, how to do this. So go ask, and people are very generous with their knowledge. If I wanted to speak to Carol or Linda and say, I'm not quite sure, am I doing this right? And and they might say, probably, I don't know, Anne, give it a shot. But I think, but to that point about approaching things with love, just being, just going out there and trying and saying to people, I'm going through my training to be an ambassador at UBS, so I'm still on a learning curve, and I will say to people, if I do something wrong, please come and tell me, because then I get an opportunity to correct it. And one of the things that I'm trying to train myself out of, and Ryan's been on enough calls with me, I have said for years, hi guys, when I join a call, and I got asked not to use that language, but I was asked so nicely, and I said, so what do I say? So I now have a sticker on my screen in front of me. I'm dyslexic as well, so I always need a bit of tools and comfort blankets. So I have a sticker on my screen that says, hello everyone, hello everybody. And it's just trying to change that. And, and no one shot me down. No one took me into a room and and gave me a dressing down over that. They said, oh, do you know what, Anne, why don't you try this? And I think, we've all got a responsibility to help and encourage and give someone an opportunity to get it right as well. It's very, and then I think people will get more involved and go out there a little bit more as their comfort factor goes up. And that's been certainly something that's been helping me. I don't think I read any of the words that I wrote down, but yeah, or I've done my finishing statement. So.
That's okay. Well, and I'm actually going to ask you a question that I didn't give you ahead of time, but I would love to follow up on something that you shared, because I think this is potentially one of those teachable moments.
Yeah.
So when you got the feedback about not using the colloquialism, "Hi guys,"
Yeah.
would you mind sharing why you got that feedback? Why would people encourage you to say something other than "Hi guys"?
UBS when I joined 20 years ago, very, very male environment. Yeah. You know, the females were often, you know, type. I think we typed then. I think it was typing or, you know, filing, whatever filing is. And it was very, you know, training floors, very male environment. And so it was easier almost to kind of run with the males than to make a stand of going, actually, stop talking about football, you know, and start talking about something that might interest me as well. Dogs, if ever you want to talk to me about dogs, by the way. But I think it was, I hadn't been inclusive. I generalised in a very male word of guys. I hadn't appreciated whether someone wanted to be identified as male or female, and I learnt a lesson, and it was great. So I still slip up, and you know, I have people that sort of fake fine me. Like, you did it again, did twice on that call out. And I walked up here today saying, "Don't say guys," and I think how many? I'm probably up to 7 now. But it was, you know, it was really good. I was corrected in a really kind way. And then I said, "Oh, you know, what should I say? What should I say?" And they gave me some alternatives to use, and I will keep trying. You know, I think, you know, I want to always get it right, and that's where I want to really, you know, and also to say to stand here and say, I've said it to various people in various team meetings, I'll call myself out about that mistake, because that shows, you know, we don't all get it right, but we're here to try and make it better.
Absolutely. Thank you for following up and going with the flow with that. I really do appreciate it.
Right. Thank you.
Carol, I'd like to come back to you and know that you will be very honest with this. As I said, it's taken us like way too long for this to become a priority. So we're talking about it. Do you think that we're talking about it in a way that is going to make a difference, or are we just sort of going through a checkbox exercise? Like, how would you rate how we are doing as an industry when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Well, firstly, I'll say it's really good that we're talking about it, because that's the first step, you know, having that conversation, because without the conversation, you can't make change. I can only speak based on what I find. I think in the travel industry, everybody means well. And if you talk to individuals in the industry, they will say, we're very diverse. But when they talk about being diverse, it's more about the people that they are acquainted with. You know, we see lots of people of colour from all walks of life, you know, from all different groups, you know, mental health, physical health, etc. And it's very much based on the nature of our business. Our business is about people. So in our day-to-day journey, we are going to meet a plethora of different types of people from all walks of life. When I think about diversity and inclusion, I think about equity. Is it equal? And that's the piece that we need to be thinking about. It's not about the fact that you have a colleague that's black, Indian, Chinese, able, disabled, etc. It's about how are we treating that person. So I now say, pull back those layers. Look at every single thing that you do and say, is this inclusive? You know, I've been to a number of events. I'm not going to name any of them because, you know, they'll know that. But one in particular, I look for it now. I was the only black person in the room. Now I have, and there was probably about 70 people, and of that 70, I was the only black face. And I look for it now. I didn't in the past. As I said, I walked around with my head down and I thought, oh, I'm fine. And the reason why I survive in that environment is because of my personality. I can rock it. But there's not everybody that's going to be like that. And that's where the change needs to come. Pull back those layers and ask yourself the question. So yes, I believe we all have really good intentions. Yes, I believe that everyone wants to make a change. What they're looking for now is the how. And we need to work together to find that how. And the first step is, as I said, lift up that lid. What's in it? Is it dirty or is it clean? When you do your washing, you go, that's dirty, it needs to. So it's my kids, it's mixed together. But, is it dirty, is it clean? In the same way that you go through life and make those decisions, that's how you need to look at diversity. Once you get to that stage where it becomes a byword, everyday life, you will find, we'll look back at this melting pot and we'll go, well, it's normal, why are we even having this conversation? It has to become the norm. And at the moment, it isn't the norm. It's just talk. And that's what needs to change.
Thanks, Carol. So let's, clap, please. That was worthy of applause for sure. Well, why don't we talk about the how a little bit and how we can take action and how we can move this forward. Shannon, I want to come back to you and talk about our travelers. Carol, you said we're an industry about people. Sometimes I think we forget to talk about the people. So let's talk about the people. So no doubt you do have a very diverse, employee pool, traveler pool, and we know that different people have different needs when they travel. We know that different people are potentially exposed to different types of risks when they travel. So how do you look after your travelers? What are some of the specific sort of steps that you take to ensure that they are safe and healthy and protected?
You know what? I think that it really ties into exactly what Carol was just talking about, though, and having people in the room with diversity of thought and experiences. Because I might be able to speak as my experience as a woman traveler, but I can't speak of my experience as a Black woman traveler or as a person who identifies as being homosexual and traveling to a place where they might not feel safe. So having people in the room and looking at what our traveler experience is with the diversity of thought is extremely helpful. And then really working with those other organizations in your company and in our industry to determine where people are welcome. How can we proactively communicate to our travelers, provide provisions and advice when they're traveling to places that they have to go to? How can we provide lodging and transportation opportunities where they feel safe and secure? So it's really about us within the industry identifying vendors and suppliers that are providing this, looking for vendors and suppliers who are diverse, because that will also make sure that they're doing the right thing. And then, in sharing that information. So our organization has paired meetings and events with travel. So travel is able to share information to M&E. For instance, back when we could travel and have large programs, we had a large signature event that was looking to take place at a location that didn't really meet our firm's values, that not everyone would have felt included at this location. So we were able to say, okay, we need to be the advocates for the entire firm, for this body of individuals traveling. Go to our internal stakeholder and say, this location is not going to be welcoming to everyone that we're inviting for this celebration, and we recommend moving here. And that's all based on that knowledge. So those little things can keep driving that change and looking at across your whole program.
Great, thanks for that. Those examples, Shannon. And is anyone just incredibly impressed by how in sync the video and audio are? I'm sorry, I was just it's amazing how this is. Now that I've said it out loud, it'll probably go wonky. But
yeah, you spoke too soon. We've got to put together with Band-Aids right now, but it's working.
It's working, and that's all that matters. So let's continue to talk about how we can take action. And I actually want to thank Anne for this because she put some of these statistics together. So just a few facts. And some of this are some of these are U.S. statistics, some more global. So Forbes actually projected that while the latest U.S. jobs report showed more people are returning to the labor market amid this rebound in hiring, that the job market's still going to remain tight. And it means that employees can be choosier about where they work. There's a survey that was done that found that 76% of employees and job seekers look for a diverse workforce. That's an important factor when they are evaluating companies and job offers. That percentage rises to 80% for Black and Hispanic job seekers. So this is clearly on the minds of many, many people. And so when we also hear how travel can play a really big role in recruitment and retention, it all comes together.
Absolutely.
Right? So Linda, this next question I'm going to pose to you. So what can we as an industry do to make ourselves more diverse and inclusive? And not just talking about, again, the people who run the businesses, although that there definitely needs to be a lot of work there. But through all of those different levels that Carol talked about. So whether you're on the supplier side, the buyer side, what are some concrete steps that we could take as an industry?
I think as an industry, it's wrong for us to keep on doing the same thing. So even if you look at, our recruitment process, going to the same universities, going to the same colleges to get people, I think that we need to be more diverse. This was about 2 years ago. I was speaking to one of the banks, and they were telling me that they were now going to places like Ghana and Nigeria, South Africa to recruit people. And I think for me, that's really where we need to look at, because once you recruit different people, I think that you can easily grow your business and grow the products. But I think more importantly, when you recruit them, it's also about giving them that support. Because once they come into your organization, how are you going to support them? How are you going to make them feel comfortable? And I think there's a couple of companies, Amazon and Adobe, where they've got different network groups that supports people right through from when they bring them in from whichever universities, whichever colleges, or apprenticeships, and they actually develop them so that they understand how to stay in the company, I think, because you can bring them in, but they'll probably leave if the culture's not right as well. So I think that as an industry, we really need to do that and really need to widen our scope when it comes to the pool and the talent that we're getting. And I think when we're also looking at our suppliers as well, it shouldn't just be a ticking exercise. You really need to understand that, we all go through the RFP process where there's a few boxes that we need to tick. And, I used to do it, we just tick it, yeah. But nobody's going to hold us accountable for it. Are you a diverse company? Yeah, you put that there, But now we need to really start asking people those questions. If you are a diverse company, can you show us some stats? Can you show us some matrix for our supply? So I think that, this is where we actually need to change in that aspect, our talent, number one, but also when we're sourcing suppliers, we need to hold them accountable for whatever they're ticking on that process.
Totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. That supplier base is so key. And so, Anne, I'd love to sort of do some follow-up with you on this, because we know that diverse supply chains broaden the pool of potential suppliers. They promote competition in the supply base, and that can in turn improve product quality. It can drive costs down, right? People always like to save on costs. And there's a report that also suggested that supply chain diversity offers businesses more agility because diverse organizations can pivot more quickly in uncertain times. I think we've been through some uncertain times. So, Anne, from the travel manager perspective, what can you and your other colleagues in the industry do to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in the supply chain? What improvements can be made to contracting communications policy so it is more than just that checkbox activity that Linda referenced?
And you stole some of my words, brilliant. 'Cause at least it makes us in sync, doesn't it? So, but I think it's how many times I think it's the first thing that we've worked really hard on service level agreements, and we've had the lawyers in, and everyone's gone back and forth to try and get that service level agreement, and the contract's signed and it goes on the shelf, and we only ever really get it down if things have gone very badly. So I think make sure that we're bringing things back, that we are talking about things. When's the last time that you talked about diversity, equity, inclusion in one of your team meetings? Bring it to the agenda. Encourage your vendors as well to bring it to their agenda and support. I was talking to Amex this morning, who are our travel agency, and they were saying, we've got 6 diverse networks, and that's amazing. How many have you got?
43.
Yeah. But it's also bringing the subject into meetings, and because I've been going through a lot of training at the moment, I can say I was on a great training course yesterday, and it made me think about this, made me ask about that. So we start the conversations, encourage and support, vendors, anyone you're meeting with, to say, what are we doing, and are we doing it well, or to Linda's point, are we ticking that box? So one of the questions, we've put it for the first time in our hotel program this year. We're asking more diversity and equity and inclusion questions. We're saying, so we've kind of said you're a diverse company, and maybe we've checked that you're not people trafficking, some very, very important things. But what more are we doing? And most importantly, what more can we do? And it's just opening up those conversations. Again, I'll ask our vendors, are you doing anything? What are you talking about? And I know when I join some of the calls, they're carrying hashtags. They're very supportive of different networks on as their screen name, rather than having Anne Barlow at the bottom of Zoom. You kind of, if you've rung me, you know who I am. But they're using those little opportunities to put additional messages in. So it's actually, what more can we do? When did we last talk about it? What did we say we were going to do when we started the contract, and actually are we doing it? But also going back to, is what we said 2-3 years ago, because things are moving on, constantly changing, language is changing. Can we actually say that still fits now? So, get it back off the shelf, blow the dust off it. And I know we don't have contracts on shelves anymore. It's all stored electronically. But it's getting back. So what more can we do? Are we doing it? And could we do it any better? And have we gone out and asked the right people? Have I gone and talked to my travellers recently? Because the way they felt 12 months ago is not how they feel today. They're looking forward to travelling, most of them. But some of them aren't. And, we've got new challenges coming up. So I need to constantly go back and revisit and have those conversations, because if I don't, I'm working on 2 or 3 year old information, and, I'm using the wrong terminology or language. Conference them in. It's usually my mum that rings me at the moment. So there's no fines here, and maybe they had a question. But it's, get that conversation going, revisit and ask yourself, are you doing it right? Could you do it better? Is what you've got old fashioned, needs revisiting, talk to people, bring in networks. We have a fantastic amount of diverse talks that you can join. And I sometimes wish the business day was longer, sometimes. But I can think, I'd love to join that session. That's really good. That would really help me. I'd learn something there. And, and I always come away with, an idea or a thought, and, a bit like we all come to the conference here and we come away with great ideas. Actually, people hate it when I come back from a conference, because I'm like, we're going to do this now. It's really good. But again, it's the conversations, be open, be humble. And I think another one is kind of be curious as well. Ask those questions, and ask them in a way. And if you ask Carol, you've got someone that's going to approach you with love. So.
And that's actually what I'm going to do next. Is I'm going to ask Carol if she has anything to add to what you had to say. And actually, speaking of questions, just a reminder: if you have questions, you can add them into the app, or I'll call on you here in a minute. Also, our virtual audience, feel free to add questions into the app, and I'll call on you. So let me see if Carol wants to add something, and then I'll get to your question, okay?
I do want to add something, and actually I think this is in the spirit of partnership and working with one of my TMCs. And in fact, my program manager's here, and I'm probably going to embarrass him, but I'm actually going to speak about BCD and Jose that works with me. And, you know, we talk about doing something. We are actually doing something which we're really, really proud of. We've put together an apprenticeship scheme, which is, you know, something that's quite pioneering for the industry. And what we've done is Fidelity's agreed to sponsor, and we are we've recruited 5 apprentices working with Fidelity. It started in the travel department. It's a proper training program over 2 years. They will cover both sales, program management, travel buyer, and at the end of it, they'll have an accredited certificate, all paid for by Fidelity. But the program has worked so well that we also have 2 female apprentices as engineers that started in September. We have a landscape gardener and a chef. These are all children or young adults from minority groups that have come in. They are not graduates, and these are, I call it sliding doors. These are people that have walked past Fidelity 100 times and often thought, I could never work in a place like that. Well, trust me, we went and found them, and they're now working for us, and I am so proud of that, and I'd like you to clap, because I tell you, that is talk. That is no longer talk. That is doing. And the reason why I've shouted out to BCD is because when I brought it to the table, they welcomed me with love and open arms and said, yes, we will work with you. And it took us about a year to get to this point. Fantastic. But we're here. So it can be done. It's a small thing. You know, every mickle makes a mackle, my mum says. And if you understand that, every small thing can become a big thing. And that's what we've done. So stop talking and let's do. Let's work together and make things happen. And thanks, I just wanted to share it, and I want to give the praise to BCD.
And thank you for doing that, and kudos to BCD, and thank you for sharing that amazing example. This is exactly the kinds of things that we want to hear. So you had a question.
Yeah, two actually, if I may.
Absolutely. So we've got 2 questions coming.
One's a bit despairing, actually. I wondered what
Thank you.
your views might be on this. I don't feel that we're very good in this country of change and accepting things that aren't in a neat little box. As someone who's been divorced for 20 years, I do get fed up with still having to state my marital status by the wanting to be called Ms. And then being classed as or dubbed as a feminist, which I'm not. I'm an equalitist. So I wondered how you felt about, in this day and age, still having to, women still having to declare their marital status, whereas men don't, which is not equal at such a fundamental level. And yet we are, you know, pushing this diversity forward, which is such a challenge. I admire you. I feel quite despondent that we're capable of real change. And the other question was, in the interest of diversity, what would you suggest, recommend, that might be a better function, should we say, for corporate hospitality?
All right.
As opposed to the traditional corporate hospitality, i.e. Henley, Wimbledon, etc.
All right, so let's take the first question first, which, while I don't live here in the UK, I'm just really resonating with, so I too am divorced and always just mark myself as single because it's no one's damn business, right? But so probably too much information, but would anyone like to take that one? How do you feel about having to check off the box?
We actually had some training on this. I keep going back to training. I do actually work as well as doing training, by the way. But I actually saw a really great thing that went out to all of our company, and it was a client advisor situation in this training model. And a husband and wife had come in and they were sat down to talk about their finances, and they educated us that you don't always assume that you talk to the husband because he may be the person of wealth. And I think it can be frustrating, and but I think there is change, and people talk about a small flap of a butterfly that can grow and grow, and I think it's there. I think we all get days when we can be a bit despondent, and I got called sir on the train yesterday morning on the way in. I wasn't quite sure why, but yeah, I've not been called sir before. But I think there's enough, there's enough passion out there. There's enough growing. There's enough awareness, and I think the training is coming. Big companies like us, we can be a bit more agile and mobile to do that. I think it's getting. Drop the Mrs. and Miss and just Ms. Well, I actually don't even particularly want that for myself. And if someone says, "How do you want to be known?" Well, Anne will do. It's my name. Yeah, but
men can be, women can't be.
Yes. I don't know, and forms are probably very old-fashioned, aren't they? And and hopefully that change is coming. And I think when you've got some of the tech companies, they're a lot better about getting it right a bit earlier. Yeah. But sort of older industries, it's out there, and I don't was if it hasn't got an asterisk by it, I don't fill it in either.
Exactly right.
So
If it's not required,
there's a bit. I will avoid it. Because I think actually I'll tell you what you need to know about me.
So why don't we, because of time, I want to get to your second question, and then we'll start to wrap up. So Linda, would do you mind taking the hospitality question with the work that you do? What are your thoughts?
I think for me it would be looking at, as you said, other ways of hospitality. So maybe looking at a more of diverse talks, or something that people are actually going to learn things from, or something to do with well-being in that sense. So I think that if you can combine something with the diversity talk and well-being, that will be well received. I do think that if nothing else, COVID, call it good or bad, but it's taught us to have different mindsets, and now people probably value their time and what they're going to do with it a little bit more. So you probably think, well, do I want? Well, yes, I love Wimbledon, but would I like to go to Wimbledon, or would I like to go and learn something and know how I can impact my industry a little bit better? So I think that whilst corporate hospitality is good, we need to look at including something else in that as well.
Great.
Some corporate hospitalities clearly don't have a great deal of diversity.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, sorry, Linda, a multicultural networking environment, and make it, the norm to do that. And it's not just about the people that we're championing, because let's face it, what we're saying is that we want to ensure that our talent has opportunity. And if you go to a lot of these events, regardless of what it is, it tends to be people of a certain level. Well, how can you kind of network and champion those people that you're supposed to be helping? So it's also looking at the invites, the layers, the people that you're inviting, becoming an ally. I was on another panel, and I said, if you don't remember one thing, remember to get yourself, become an ally to somebody and help them along the way. So look at the people in your environment, who doesn't matter who it is, and say, I'll support you, I will show you the way, I'll help you cut your teeth, and all the stumbling blocks that I came across, I'll share and help you grow. And they're the people that you should be taking with you, and inviting them in, introducing them to lots of different people and helping them with the development. And in so doing, you will have that multicultural network of people from all levels, and give them the opportunity to speak out and share how they're feeling and what you can do to help them. And that's a really small thing. It's just taking the hands of somebody that wants to develop and grow within the travel industry. So just a multicultural network, and it doesn't matter what the occasion is.
Absolutely. Excuse me, the hour has just flown by, so I'm going to do just a round robin final question. Linda, can I have you move your mic up towards your mouth just a tiny little bit for this last part? So I'm going to ask each of you to try and do like maybe a 30-second response. I want you to just share a final thought. This can be maybe it's a personal, professional goal for the next year that's related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Maybe it's a piece of advice for your peers here in the room, or just your general sort of hopes and dreams for the industry and what will look like moving forward. So I'll start with Shannon, and then we'll just go down the row. So Shannon, what would you like to share? What's your final thought?
Great.
Oh.
Can you hear me okay? Wait. We good now?
We're good.
All right, fabulous. This has been a really great discussion. I feel like we could sit here for quite some time more and learn things from each other. One thing that I hear as a common thread coming through, and something that resonates with me, is there's an African American proverb that is each one teach one. And for me, I would like to see all of us in this room take an opportunity to look at someone who might come from a community that doesn't have a voice in our industry, and that's the one thing that you can do. One of the speakers was talking about being despondent. If you look at all of the things that we need to do, we'll never get anything done. You will become so sad and depressed by it. But if you do first this, then that. So this, I would challenge all of us, is to look for someone to mentor.
Thanks so much, Shannon. That was great. Carol.
I'm going to go back to how I started. Get up, stand up, and be counted. That's all you need to do. Just raise your head, be counted, and look for your friend next door. Hold their hand and take them on your journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Linda.
I think for me, the vision of diversity is big, but the steps are small. And we really need to be realistic about what steps that we can actually make. But the world will not change overnight. But I really feel that, we need to start making the right changes with the small changes. And my hope is that, in this industry, one day we will see a shift. And embrace people based on merit. It doesn't matter, where you're from, what you look like, but it's, can you do the job? Are you fit to do the job? I think that for me is, if we could embrace that in this industry, that would be a big achievement.
Great. Thanks, Linda. And Anne.
I'm going to actually, very quickly, before I do a final close, I'm just going to ask everybody, if you're able, to put your hands up. And you can do this if you're at home dialing in. So if everyone wants to put their hands, one hand, two hand, don't mind. So put them down. No, don't put them down yet. It's one of those games, isn't it? So keep your hand up if, put your hand down if you've ever been discriminated against, passed over, bullied, felt out of your depth, witnessed some poor behaviour. In the room, we've already got all hands down, by the way. Struggled in any way was one of my other questions. Felt imposter syndrome or got it wrong. So no one is left with their hand up at the moment. So this is a very inclusive moment. So I was going to make you stand up. That would have been actually a bit more on point with our message. But we're all involved. We've all had difficult moments. We've overcome them. Perhaps we've shared some of that knowledge. We've helped someone else through. So we've all got an opportunity, absolutely everyone in this room. So my final words really are, make D&I part of your personal and professional everyday approach, not something on your to-do list. Challenge yourself to be collaborative, ask, learn and implement. Be curious. I think curious is the most wonderful word, and it's coming back a lot now. I'm hearing that word a lot more. And ask, think, and curious is a great way of approach. And we've all heard, be kind. Doesn't take much. Your smile to somebody on a train station maybe in the morning could change a whole sequence of events. So and if you're asked on how do I approach this? I'm not sure if I've got it right, or I think I've made a mistake. Be very generous and be kind. Leave that person feeling with, I can ask again. Even if I did get it wrong again, I've got someone that now is an ally that can come and help me. So, and create those opportunities, remove the barriers. And I'll just finish with start the conversations.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Just as a reminder, if you can go into the app and complete the very quick survey, we would appreciate your feedback. But have a fantastic evening, and hopefully we'll see you back at the show tomorrow.
Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.